This is the Jay Pitt Show.
This listener asks, what's the number one thing agents should do in 2025 to build their business? And what's one thing agents should remove from their business in 2025? So an open-ended question, but they just want to know one thing to add, one thing to take away.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, I'm going to take that question and I'm going to say what we are doing, and then maybe I'll answer it straight up. The reason I'll answer the question straight up and then also answer it slightly based on what we're doing is what you should always do. And it is timeless. It is without regard to the state of the market or anything. And then the other answer I'll give you based on a little bit of market dynamics. What we're doing is we're going very deep with sphere of influence. We've done a good job of positioning ourselves in between our clients and the business and the home purchases, right? So where they kind of bump into us, more of an inbound marketing approach where, you know, when people start considering making a home purchase or listing their property, we're the logical reach out, right? But that's inbound, that's not outbound. So what we're doing is we're going to be more proactive, going to our clients, asking for referrals, having candid conversations about real estate, formalizing those conversations. Because over the last number of years, we've had a ton of growth with internet leads. And, you know, that's been great. Any addition to your database or your client network is a good addition. You know, we don't scoff at there's no bad way to generate a lead. But we want to keep that from becoming the majority of our business. We've done that thus far, and we think that the most growth is from our network. So we're actually like talking about word tracks to pick up the phone and initiate conversations, to initiate face-to-face meetings, to initiate, you know, conversations at a barbecue or whatever, right? Like we're not going to be annoying. We're going to live in that space where we know when people want or are willing to talk real estate. We're going to be able to have that conversation in that moment, and we're not going to apologize for it, but we're not going to cross over the line to be more annoying, if that makes sense. So that's timeless. You should always do that. I always say, and I'll admit it's a made up statistic, but I think there's probably some truth to it. 99% of agents don't even call their people. And out of the 1% that do call, 99% of those don't talk about real estate. So you're talking 1% of 1% actually call with the purpose of discussing real estate. It's not just a, hey, how are your kids? How's life? What are you doing? You know, oh, I heard about Johnny, you know, was all tournament team at the basketball tournament, whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's not real estate. That doesn't do anything for making you memorable at the time that you need to be memorable. Having the conversation about real estate does. So that's what we're doing. Okay, based on the market, here's what I'm going to say. And this is not a piece of advice I would always give. I think you need to do more open houses in 2025. Based on the condition of the market, you have still historically low inventory. A lot of people think that we have this glut of inventory. We don't. We're sitting at about 3 months supply right now, which is still half of what is considered a balanced market between buyers and sellers. But it's not 1.5 months like it has been, you know, for the majority of 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and part of 24. So we're sitting at a higher inventory than we've had. Days on market are climbing, okay, which means that you're not selling everything at a breakneck pace, which means that you need to use your listings to generate leads at a higher level. Sitting open houses, it's not exciting, okay? It's inconvenient. It's 2 hours on a Sunday, but you know, football season's over. There's no more football to be missing. Okay. You know, which some agents will turn the TV on at the open house and watch football at the open house. I digress. Hold more open houses. One conversation with a prospective buyer in an open house that, by the way, doesn't have to sign a contract to see that house. So you get to have a relaxed interaction, could lead to a buyer consultation and an exclusive buyer agency agreement and a piece of business going forward. And I really like I really like that idea.
I would argue too, right now is the perfect time to do open houses too. I know in my business, I've been getting a lot of calls of people looking to buy later in the year.
Yep.
And I would guess that a lot of people going to open houses right now are people that aren't quite ready right now, but are going to be ready later in the year. And I think it's probably seasonal, but also I think it has to do with where rates are and people expecting rates to drop later. Will they? I don't know. We're going to talk about inflation coming in higher than expected again today. But I would imagine that's the two reasons why people are calling me right now. Hey, not ready, but later this year, here's what we want to do. And like I said, I think that's what people are doing at open houses right now.
Absolutely. And okay, so let's take a step back and talk about my team wanting to work with their sphere of influence. So let's say we don't do what I've prescribed for the team to do this year, and we sit back and we wait on them to call us. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Usually that depends on how good a job you've done for them in the past, how close your relationships are, how good a marketer you are. A lot of variables, right? But it's safe to say that nearly everyone in the market knows at least 3 or 4 realtors, or is aware of 3 or 4 realtors. Social media makes it really easy for you to identify people in the real estate business. And that's one thing we do is we're fairly visible on social. Do I want to rely on them, okay, to follow through with an instinct, okay? Or should I reach out and make it more of a certainty? Okay, that's the basis for me telling my team what they're hearing from me right now. I think it's safe to say that the majority of realtors are still not doing that. So if I can hold an open house, and I know that a likely first step for many home buyers is to casually attend open houses, then I get a face-to-face interaction potentially with those people if I'm the agent in that open house. So do you now tell me, Ryan, if somebody meets me at an open house with my skill level and I get to have a face-to-face interaction with them and talk about buying and selling real estate with them, does it make it more or less likely that they follow through in calling their agent that hasn't talked to them in 3 years? Makes it a lot less likely. So I take my chances, and most real estate agents are good face-to-face. That's why they do this. And if that's one of your strengths, one of your superpowers, then you got to lean in. And so, if you could guarantee that, I don't know. I mean, a comparable example is a barbecue, but it's January or it's February. A comparable situation is a kid's birthday party, right? But how often do those happen once a year?
So I wanted to talk about that too when you brought that up earlier. Yeah. I think a lot of agents go to those knowing people are going to ask them about real estate, and I'd say the majority give the generic answer. Mm-hmm. It's strong, it's bad, it's a seller's market, it's a buyer's market, yada, yada, yada. But, what I try to do is, and I might not know the stats every day, but before going to something like that, check the MLS, see how many are active currently, what you're seeing in the market, and come up with a narrative that fits the market and shows that person asking you, like, oh, you pay attention. Like, you're throwing numbers at me and percentages. And
for sure.
That's the way to do it, not just go and give them a response. It's good, it's bad, it's seller's market, it's buyer's market.
Well, people listening, if you follow me on Instagram, I put it out for you once a week. Louisville market update, right? Once a week, you can just go to my page and see, oh, well, actually there were a few more houses hit the market this week than the same week last year, but we had a few, slightly fewer sales, but this year we're up on closing substantially, but listings are down actually. You know what I mean? Like, these are pretty relevant numbers in comparison to last year. Everybody can remember what last year was like.
And it's also okay to pull up your phone while you're talking to somebody.
Yeah. Well, we were joking. I sat on the Real Producers panel for an event, I don't know, a month ago. And I'm sitting on there with owner of Homepage, Carrie King, and she made a joke about how when people ask her how the market's doing, she just tells them whatever she heard on this podcast, which I thought was funny, and maybe it was a little bit of a joke, but she acted sincere about it, and that's the truth. Like, I don't care if you regurgitate my stats. Yeah, in my opinion,
it's all out there for everybody.
It's all out there for everybody to find. I mean, it's not like I have some magic control over the numbers. Please, if you listen to this podcast, whether you're an agent of this brokerage or another agent, go to my feed on Instagram before you go to a kid's birthday party and check out last week's stats.
Let me ask, do you think open houses during the week are underrated?
That's a hard question. I think they're non-existent. So yeah, they're probably underrated. We've had some successful open houses, weeknight open houses. Thursday night is a good night, especially if the weather is good and you can, do a little wine and cheese kind of deal. And it's in a good neighborhood where, you get a ton of, internet lookers. If it's, a dog of a listing that's been on the market for 800 days and, it's ugly and, it's in a tough neighborhood or it's rural, like, you're not going to get anybody to show up. Yeah. The rule of thumb is if you can get people to show up, it's worth it. And that's tough these days to predict because some of the best houses, sometimes you'll be surprised. Weather is certainly a factor. The problem is when the weather's really nice and open houses are most successful, it's the time that you'd rather be there the least.
Sure.
You'd rather be on the golf course if it's 75 and sunny, in April, right, on a Sunday afternoon rather than sit in an open house. That's the tough part. Saturday open houses, I think, are definitely underrated. Most open houses are done on Sundays from 2 to 4 or 1 to 4, 1 to 3. Not much earlier than that because a lot of people go to church, but Saturday open houses are very underrated. People are used to being out and about on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I've had great success with Saturday.
All right. So what's one thing they should remove?
One thing they should remove. I'm going to say, and I'm not going to name names. Here's what I'll say. I'll say no. I'll say this is not, I'm not talking about Zillow. Or, well, I could say this. One thing you should remove is paying extremely high amounts for internet leads if you're not in one of the favored programs by a couple of the lead source providers. Zillow Flex, I think market-based pricing for Zillow is over. It's just like, I think it's over. The majority of their markets are getting converted to majority flex now. I think realtor.com market VIP is the only way to do that, even though they're $400 a lead in some cases. These companies are getting very, very good at predicting which leads they generate are likely to transact using a lot of data and AI, and they're funneling those leads, whether they admit it or not, to the place that they get paid the most. And they don't get paid the most on a cost per lead basis. They get paid the most on their referral fee plans. And so my team on Flex that gets 200 leads a month from Zillow are getting the most highly predicted leads that are likely to close.
Yep.
So paying 100, 150, 200, 250, again, I've seen them up to $400 a lead. It's cost prohibitive.